So thank you for those of us who are joining. This is the, I'm going to move this over here, Federal Environmental Review Update and Options Public Comment Meeting. You are the public. Hopefully we only have the one option. First, I will, see, this is the problem. It won't page down when I'm in this way. Hang on. I'm just gonna have to do it that way because it won't do the slides the other way. Okay, so my name is Leah Anselm. I'm part of the city's housing team. With me tonight are Lindsay Nabosny, Linda Hedden, Carol Wheeler, and Ann De Silvatello, also part of Neighborhood and Business Development. And I think so far on the attendance list are names I mostly recognize of people who have worked on projects with us. So I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is not new. But if we cover something that is unfamiliar, please stop me. So we are talking specifically about federally funded programs and projects that involve environmental review. We all call those NEPAs. We are required to conduct environmental review of any activities that we assist, whether they involve brick and mortar projects or even if they don't. As part of 24 CFR Part 50, HUD has the legal responsibility to defend that process and outcomes. And typically they delegate that to a responsible entity, the RE, that is typically us for the city of Rochester. So we take on the burden of HUD. You, the development community, typically prepare the environmental review documents, perform the necessary studies and backup documentation, and submit requests to state and tribal historic preservation offices, SHPO, and how would I say that? THPO. I only ever call it the tribal folks.
It's TIPO.
What? THPO? I feel like that just seems odd. So this is something that HUD has provided that we think is actually going to be a great benefit for the development community, even more than for the city of Rochester. So everybody go, yay. So when it comes to historic impact, the RA reviews all activities that involve a physical component, which could potentially also have an environmental component. Many projects utilize historic tax credits to assist their bottom line, but as I'm sure you've all experienced, many HUD-assisted activities have basically no impact, either because of what the project is or what the project is doing. So SHPO's perspective is that they currently receive over 1,000 requests annually, and the majority don't have an adverse impact on the property or the environment, or don't involve a historic property to begin with, in which case it bogs them down to slowing down their process to getting back to those projects that actually do have a historic impact. So HUD, and Ann tells me that this is really a long time coming, has offered the opportunity for the entire state of New York to participate in a programmatic agreement, or a PA. So we, Rochester, would sign on to the state's programmatic agreement, and then any project that has an activity that is an activity that doesn't impact a historic building or area or resource will mean we don't have to do that section of the NEPA. We do have to document it, but we don't need to go through the entire process of the SHPO review. So from our perspective, what are the benefits of that? Efficiency. It's simple. It's a simple way to address projects with no adverse effects or that don't affect historic property. It expedites reviews, especially when we're dealing with affordable housing projects, and it can be produced either with or without a qualified professional. And then in terms of consistency, which is important to all of us, it means all HUD programs governed by environmental regulations, standard review across all of New York State, and the list of exempt activities would also be standardized. So that's kind of where we're working on kind of parsing through the list to make sure we're clear on all of the things that do or do not trigger SHPO that would or wouldn't come under the PA. And that's partly where you would come in as well. So according to HUD, they have this whole section of A and B, C and D, E, F and G. I know this is super tiny. Let me see if I can make this at all larger. So activities that are already exempt or categorically excluded, not subject to related laws. Some of you have done this level of project before, so that remains exempt. When the responsible entity certifying officer is the agency official, also part of this PA. Refinances that don't involve demolition, rehabilitation, or new construction, and no physical activities beyond maintenance that HUD has designed in their very long description. Also leasing that doesn't involve any of those things falls under this. E, activities without ground disturbance involving 1 to 4 unit properties that are less than 45 years old. Apparently I am about to be considered historic. And then this does not count if the property is located or adjacent to an eligible historic district, or is one of a few properties located in a neighborhood that is primarily made up of properties that are over 45 years old or could meet the national criterion consideration. They're going to describe this a little better in the next slide. Undertaking that is rehab of interior spaces in 1 to 4 family residential units where nobody's going to see what you're doing. Again, unless the property is eligible or listed in the National Register of Historic Places. If this property is part of a project that's going to be applying for rehab tax credits, that probably doesn't count. You will still need to involve SHPO. And then G, a project where all the activities specifically listed in Appendix A, which I have not listed here, are exempt and don't require review. We did put the Appendix A that HUD has provided on our city webpage. So if you link to that, or you go to the business and housing webpage, that will be listed there and you can view it at your leisure. When does this not matter at all? Projects that include activities other than the exempted ones will still require this review. And that would include consultation with SHPO, consultation with the tribes and other interested parties. So if you're doing a big fat project or you're doing new construction, you will still be triggering the need for SHPO review. If you're doing some stuff that's a little bit of maintenance and small rehab, but also other activities that would trigger it, your whole project triggers, much like all the other activities. And then if there are any historic tax credits in your project, do not assume that this is going to apply to you. You will need to involve SHPO and THPO. So HUD has given us copious amounts of time to think about this and sign on to it. They have asked us to have all of our comments from you back to them by the end of the month. So hopefully this is a good time for you to have comments or not, but we are collecting them. We're going to send them off. And then after HUD completes their updates to, after everybody's feedback, do all of their tweaking, they will have a comment period. They will send us the programmatic agreement, assuming we have decided to sign on. And then once that happens, everybody will be notified and this will be for real. They did note, I should have mentioned this in here, if your project does not need SHPO review, but you're going through the HUD system, the HEROES system, there will still be a section where you will need to document, here's our project, here's why it does not trigger SHPO, we're using the programmatic agreement. You can't just ignore it and pretend that it is not happening. That's not what HUD wants. And especially the first several, we will all work together to make sure that we're documenting appropriately. So as usual, I have talked everybody's ear off. But if anybody has any questions or comments, if you feel like you'd like to share them right now, we would be thrilled to hear them. But we also have a form available again on the city's BHD website so that you can review all this material and then provide comments if you have them. And I can't see anything, so I don't know, Lindsay, if you've got any.
I do not see any questions or comments.
I'm not going to assume this is because I'm doing such a great job. I'm going to assume that it's because we're so excited about this that we really just want to say, yes, HUD, let's do it.
You covered everything. You did a great job.
Yeah.
But no, I don't see any questions.
Okay. Oh, Francis. Okay. Do you know how to? All right. Okay. Francis, you should be able to.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I was reviewing the agreement and it references a prior agreement. Does this agreement supersede a prior agreement? I think it's the first page. Tell you which paragraph. Actually, maybe the second.
In the HUD draft?
Yeah, in the HUD draft, if you look at page 3, the bottom of page 3, the last whereas clause.
As I understand it, there was one a bazillion years ago, and HUD has relatively recently said, no, that's too old.
So this is not specific to Rochester. We're signing on to a generic agreement. And so some communities may have had a prior agreement with HUD. I'm not sure if that's just saying that it supersedes that. But I mean, we had one that's way too old to rely on anyway. So this will be our agreement to rely on if we send them.
Thank you for the context.
All right. All right.
And also, Francis, thanks for reading the actually reading.
I know, it's very exciting.
It's like applause to you. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is definitely my easiest presentation of the day. But if you do, I guess we will let everybody go off and have their dinner or some actual free time. But if you do end up thinking of something and you want to reach out to us directly, please do. Or as I said, you can visit the Business and Housing webpage of the City of Rochester site, and we put up a form so you can submit your comments that way. We would prefer it to be by the end of this week so that we can provide our due diligence to HUD, but if something comes up after, we'll certainly accept your comments. And then not that it is terribly informative, but this recording will be put on the city's website as well. So if anybody wanted to view it or send it off to somebody, you would be more than welcome.
I also, Leah, I made a more, I guess, direct URL for comments. It's cityofrochester.gov/section 106 PA. So that'll hopefully be easier for folks to find.
Yes, I know our website is not always the most user-friendly. All right. Well, that was easy. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a lovely evening.
Bye. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Yeah.